Have you ever been so broke, so desperate, that you had to make a choice that shattered your own heart? Picture this, Philadelphia. A young man named Silvester sits on the steps of his tiny apartment. He's an aspiring actor, but the only role he seems to be playing is starving artist. His shoes have holes. His stomach is empty, and his dream is fading with every rejection. By his side is his only friend, his rock, his loyal bull mastiff, Butkus. Those big brown eyes never stopped believing in him, even when Silvester started to doubt himself. "Guess it's just you and me, Butty," he'd whisper, and Butkus would lick his hand, a silent promise that everything would be okay. But things weren't okay. Auditions were a dead end. Casting directors told him he didn't have the right look, that he talked funny. He had no money for rent, for electricity, sometimes not even for food. Some nights the cold pavement was his bed, and Butkus was his only source of warmth. Yet every morning he'd force himself to look in the mirror and say, "One more day, Sly, don't give up." But desperation is a powerful force. One evening, after another soul-crushing audition, he came home with nothing. Butkus, ever hopeful, wagged his tail, expecting dinner. Silvester knelt down, tears blurring his vision. "I can't feed you any more, boy," he choked out. "You deserve better than this." The next day he made the hardest decision of his life. He walked Butkus to a local store and found a man willing to buy his best friend. With a trembling hand and tears streaming down his face, he handed over the leash. $50. That was the price of his heartbreak. It was enough to eat for a week, but the moment Butkus was gone, his world went silent. The night felt colder, the city felt emptier. He missed the familiar weight of his dog sleeping next to him. He missed his only friend. The $50 felt like the heaviest, most painful money he had ever held. He was alone, truly and completely alone. A few weeks later, adrift in his grief, Silvester was watching a boxing match. He saw a fighter, smaller but full of heart, taking a brutal beating but refusing to stay down. Something inside him ignited. He grabbed a cheap notebook and started writing it. For 3 days and 3 sleepless nights, he poured his own pain, his own struggle, his own underdog story onto the page. He wrote about a small-time boxer from Philly who gets a once-in-a-lifetime shot at the heavyweight title. He called it Rocky. This script became his new lifeline. He carried it everywhere, pitching it to anyone who would listen. Producers liked the story, but they wanted a big star to play the lead. "We'll give you $100,000 for the script," one offered. It was more money than he'd ever seen. But Silvester refused. "No," he said, his voice firm. "If this story gets made, I'm Rocky." He thought of Butkus. He thought about loyalty, about sticking by something, by someone, even when the odds are stacked against you. His own story was about a fighter who wouldn't quit, and he wasn't going to quit on himself. Finally, a small studio took a massive gamble. They agreed to let him star, but the budget would be right. Silvester didn't care. It was his shot. The bell was about to ring on his dream. The very first thing he did with his small initial paycheck was to buy a fancy meal or new clothes. It was to get his friend back. He raced back to that store, desperate to find Butkus. Weeks passed with no sign. His hope began to dwindle. Was his friend gone forever? Then, one day, he saw him, a man walking a familiar, lumbering bullmastiff, Butkus. Silvester called out, his heart pounding. The dog's head shot up. His tail started wagging, then whipping back and forth. He broke free and launched himself into Silvester's arms, covering him in joyful licks. It was a reunion of pure, unfiltered love. But the new owner didn't want to sell him back. Silvester offered him all the money he had, but the man refused. So Silvester scraped together every penny from his early filming payments. He went back to the man and offered him $15,000, staggering sum for him at the time. He handed over the money, and finally Butkus was back in his arms. "You're coming home, buddy," he whispered, burying his face in his dog's fur. "We made it." And they had. When Rocky hit theaters, it wasn't just a movie, it was a phenomenon. It became a global symbol of hope, a testament to the power of the human spirit. Silvester went from a broke, unknown actor to a Hollywood legend. He won awards and acclaim. But for him, no golden statue could ever compare to the feeling of his best friend Butkus, snoring softly beside him at night. They had faced hunger, cold, and despair together. They had been separated by heartbreak, but reunited by loyalty. Their story teaches us that dreams often demand sacrifice, but the bonds of love and loyalty are the true prize. It reminds us to keep fighting, even when we're down for the count, because our greatest struggles often forge our greatest strengths. Thank you so much for watching. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more tales of inspiration and perseverance. We'll see you in the next one.